Connecting delegation to discipline. Why this section matters. In Section 2, we explored delegation and the reality that responsibility never leaves the designated broker. Now we take the next step, understanding the real consequences when supervision and delegation fail. This section is where the law becomes very real. ARS, paragraph 32-2153, is not just a list of rules. It is the enforcement tool used by the Arizona Department of Real Estate, ADRE, to protect the public. Every violation we discuss in this section ties directly back to supervision, and more importantly, to your ability to protect your license and your brokerage. The authority of the commissioner, the power behind enforcement under ARS. Paragraph 32-2153, the commissioner has the authority to deny, suspend, or revoke a license, issue a letter of concern, or impose a provisional license if violations occur within the previous 5 years. This is important because discipline is not limited to current actions. Your past conduct follows you. Even more critical, the commissioner does not need a criminal conviction to take action. Administrative violations alone can lead to serious consequences. Misrepresentation and false promises. The fastest path to discipline. One of the most common violations involves pursuing a course of misrepresentation or making false promises. This includes exaggerating property features, misleading advertising, or providing inaccurate information during a transaction. For example, if an agent advertises a property as having no known defects while ignoring material issues disclosed by the seller, this could be considered misrepresentation. This ties directly to the case of Hill v. Jones, where failure to disclose material facts resulted in liability. The lesson is clear. Honesty is not optional in real estate. It is legally required. Failure to disclose agency relationships, a hidden risk area. Acting for more than one party without the knowledge and consent of all parties is another major violation under ARS, paragraph 32-153. In today's environment, where dual agency and limited representation are common, failure to properly disclose relationships can quickly lead to complaints. This connects directly to AAC R428-1101 and the requirement to clearly communicate agency relationships. A simple missed signature on an agency disclosure form can escalate into a serious legal issue. Advertising violations, where brokers often get caught advertising, remains one of the most heavily scrutinized areas by ADRE. Under ARS, paragraph 32-2153, knowingly publishing false or misleading advertising is grounds for discipline. This ties directly into AAC R428-502, which governs advertising by licensees. In today's digital world, social media, online listings, and AI-generated content, brokers must be more vigilant than ever. If an agent posts misleading information online and the broker fails to supervise, the broker may be held responsible. Modern tools create modern risks, but the legal standard remains the same. Trust accounts and handling of funds, zero tolerance area. Failure to properly account for or remit funds, commingling money, or mishandling trust accounts are some of the most serious violations under ARS, paragraph 32-2153. For example, if earnest money is not properly deposited or accounted for, this can lead to immediate investigation and potential license suspension. Arizona law is extremely strict in this area because it involves consumer protection and fiduciary responsibility. Unlicensed activity and improper compensation. Employing unlicensed individuals to perform licensed activities or receiving compensation from anyone other than your employing broker are also violations. This is especially important in team environments where roles may blur. For example, if an unlicensed assistant discusses contract terms or negotiates on behalf of a client, this could be considered unlicensed activity. Again, this ties back to supervision. If it happens in your brokerage, it is your responsibility. Negligence and incompetence, the standard of care connection. ARS, paragraph 32-2153, also includes negligence and incompetence as grounds for discipline. This is where we begin to connect to Section 4 and the concept of standard of care. Negligence does not require intentional wrongdoing. It simply requires a failure to act as a reasonable real estate professional would under similar circumstances. For example, failing to advise a client to seek professional inspection or ignoring red flags in a transaction could be considered negligence. Fair housing violations, a critical compliance area. Violating federal fair housing laws or Arizona civil rights laws is explicitly listed as grounds for discipline. This includes discriminatory practices in advertising, showing property, or negotiating transactions. In today's regulatory environment, fair housing compliance is heavily enforced, and violations can lead to both administrative penalties and civil liability. Failure to cooperate with ADRI investigations. Another often overlooked violation is failing to respond to an ADRI investigation or failing to provide requested documents. Even if the original complaint is minor, failure to cooperate can escalate the situation significantly. Brokers must maintain complete records and be prepared to produce them when requested under ARS. Paragraph 32.2151.01. Progressive discipline and modern enforcement trends. Recent updates emphasize a more structured, progressive discipline approach, including letters of concern and provisional licenses before more severe penalties are imposed. However, serious violations, especially those involving fraud, trust accounts, or consumer harm, can still result in immediate suspension or revocation. The takeaway is simple: not all violations are treated equally, but all violations matter. How this section connects to the bigger picture. Everything we have covered so far, supervision and delegation, leads directly to this moment. This section shows the consequences of failure. As we move into Section 4, we will explore errors and omissions insurance and how these violations translate into claims and financial exposure. The pattern continues: supervision prevents violations, and prevention protects your license and your business. Online discussion. Question 1. Why is ARS, paragraph 32.2153, considered one of the most important statutes for brokers? Answer: because it outlines the specific actions that can lead to license denial, suspension, or revocation, making it the primary enforcement tool used by ADRA to regulate broker conduct. Question 2. What is the most common cause of discipline under this statute? Answer: failure to exercise reasonable supervision, which connects directly to broker oversight of agents, transactions, and brokerage operations. Question 3. How does negligence differ from intentional misconduct under ARS? Paragraph 32.2153. Answer: negligence involves failing to meet the standard of care without intent, while intentional misconduct involves deliberate actions such as fraud or misrepresentation.